Welcome to the Naturally Healthy Pets Podcast. Let's get to it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Naturally Healthy Pets Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Judy Morgan, and I have two of my favorite people here as guests today, the two crazy cat ladies. I just love the name in general, but Jae Kennedy and Adrienne, I'm going to screw up your last name. Say it.
Lefebvre. You are really
Lefebvre. Oh my gosh. I wasn't going there. Okay. I guess I've never heard it pronounced out loud before. All right. So the two crazy cat ladies are a little crazy, but they are cat advocates, social media influencers, bloggers, and content creators. But really, their cat advocate thing is the big part. Motivated by the lack of available resources for natural feline health, Jae and Adrienne have dedicated their lives to learning and sharing all they can to help cats live the longest, healthiest, and happiest lives possible. They host regular live shows on social media. The one in the closet's the most fun, to connect with cat parents, as well as sharing tips about cat health and happiness via blogs and videos. Also worth mentioning, they usually have a cocktail in hand.
Yes.
Too early.
Usually, but it's early.
It's very early. So our topic today is, are cats second-class citizens in the pet world?
We love this topic so much.
Yeah, and I feel like it's not covered enough.
Yeah.
Especially in the pet world, I would say.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because what we have discovered, I mean, my platform has been veterinary medicine kind of across the board, cats and dogs. We even do some horse stuff, and now we do a little chicken stuff. But somehow people really started feeling like it was skewed more toward dogs. Mm-hmm. And because my dogs were always on set, my cats usually were not on set. And so then the cat people started coming out of the woodwork and saying, you need to do more cat stuff. And I'm like, well, I mean, a urinary tract infection is a urinary tract infection. No, it's not.
That's something about cat people. They love cat specific stuff. But I do think it's because, especially in the pet health world, there's so many things that are like great for pet health. And then you realize it's actually not appropriate for cats. So you want something that's specific for cats.
Or it was made, it's not necessarily that it's not appropriate or not, say, like in the supplement world, right? Like not necessarily healthy for cats, but it wasn't, you can tell that it wasn't made with cats in mind. Right.
Exactly.
That it's the size.
Here, you need to give 3 teaspoons of this powder. And your cat says, yeah, sure.
Right. Right. Yes. Or a treat that's like way too big and it has to be broken down if you're going to give it to a cat versus, the way that it was originally made for dogs. So it is one of those things that, I mean, I think that the world we're growing, right? More and more cat parents are coming out of the closet. More and more cat parents are asking and saying, hey, I want more information about my cats too. Versus, when we first started in this field back in 2005, you couldn't, nobody was talking about cats. Nobody was talking about cats specifically. They were, it was only in the pet nutrition field, in our world, at least, it was only dogs that you would ever hear about. And if they said pets, then they meant dogs. And, even pet grooming salons, right? You see pet grooming salons and you're like, oh.
You never see one labeled cat grooming salon.
No, you don't.
Very few.
But you do see, we did a little experiment. You do see a lot of like those mobile groomers. They're like cat and dog groomers. If you call them, they're like, oh, we actually don't do cats. Mm-hmm. They're like, it's on your van. It's on your van. But it is, I think you're right. To that point, it's there's so much, especially in the veterinary world. Like you have been such an advocate, I think, for multi-species. Don't forget the donkeys either, right? But it's when you're looking for those resources, especially when we started about 9 years ago with being the two crazy cat ladies, we were desperate to find resources. And I remember the big bright shining light of Dr. Lisa Pearson that we found at that time with catinfo.org. So much information. I was like, oh my gosh, this is almost overwhelming. Just on the nutrition aspect of it.
Yeah, but, great website. I actually refer to that website still quite often.
Absolutely same. Yeah.
So why do you think we don't give as much attention to cat health as we do to dog health?
I think a lot of it has to do with the cats being misunderstood in many ways. And I also think it's the lack of cat parents that were seeking the information, right? So when we started our company, we also started a supplement company. And we quickly realized we came from a supplement company and a pet supplement company. And we quickly realized that there's not a lot of demand in the world of pet health for cats, right? Like, oh, we're going to be broke forever. Okay. Versus what it was in the dog health community. So I feel like, there's this overall awareness that, is starting to just bloom now. It's starting to, you can see it more and more, with pet food companies, now good, healthy, raw pet food companies coming out with cat formulas as well. Before that
has taken a long time. We had one good one, and FDA was mean, and it disappeared. Yeah, that was bad. But it's taken a long time to now have companies formulating for the cats as well as the dogs. Because let's face it, bad diet is probably at the top of the list of problems for cats.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I don't think people realize how much that can actually impact behavior, right? To Jay's point about why is it that there's this kind of lack of for cats. And I do think part of it is the fact that cats are so stoic. They're not as expressive as dogs. They don't remind you they have to go for a walk every day. The litter box, you can just kind of scoop it. You're not necessarily paying attention. But there's also that on the flip side, it's like, and we've talked to so many people that are like, I'd really love to get a dog one day, but I think I'm going to start with a cat, like as a practice companion animal.
Because they're easier.
Right? They're just easier. Cats are so easy. And I think part of that is that we're just not, I've said it before, like if I were to get an African parrot, I would be getting the book on what do these parrots eat? How do they sleep? What is their rhythm like? What kind of behaviors do they have? How do they express themselves? And I think we kind of grew up with that mentality of cats and dogs are household pets and not really understanding what a different species they are.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different.
And different needs.
Right. And when you talk about even the diet being kind of at the top of the list, it's so true because cats are different than dogs in that they are obligate carnivores. They do have a much more specific biological requirement for their nutrients. And when we know this for a fact, when we eat a bunch of crap, we're irritable, we feel bloated, it even affects their behavior to a certain degree.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's going to affect bad behaviors like, well, let's see, I've got a bunch of crystals in my urine. It hurts to pee in the litter box. I think I'll go pee over here. Right. I mean, there's just so many things that are impacted by that. And unfortunately, we just first of all, nobody understood what cats were supposed to be eating, or if they did, they didn't care. I think it was both. Because look back, I started practice in the late 1980s. And that was when we were seeing a whole bunch of cats with taurine deficiencies. So we were getting blindness and we were getting heart failure. And it's because we took an obligate carnivore and it's like, oh, here, have your corn. And, oh, we have to add taurine to that? Imagine that.
Right.
But that's how we learned that cats were different. It's like, oh, we fed them the same thing we were feeding dogs. Didn't work.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. They're definitely different, and they're different in terms of what they need. And, like Adrienne said, everybody used to think, at least maybe they still do, many still do think that cats are just easy animals because they're aloof and because they, just lay around all day and they don't really need anything. But there are actually, for enrichment, there's so much that our cats do actually need. I would venture to say the cats are more complicated than dogs when in a lot of ways, when you have them as pets. One, that feeding process, right? Like it's much easier to feed your dog once you know better. The doing better is a lot easier.
A lot easier transition to a healthier diet.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the most part, every animal is an individual, but for the most part, cats, that doing better is they give some pushback. It's a bit harder.
It's negotiation.
It's a bit harder to get our cats on a better diet. It's a bit harder to tell our cats to all of a sudden switch a routine where they're just sleeping on the couch every day to, hey, maybe we get up and go play. Hey, maybe we start going outside for a walk. And maybe we do some other things when they're just used to being stuck in our four walls, laying on the couch, doing nothing and not having any type of enrichment. And we learn better. Then we have to take those steps, and they're a little bit more complicated when it comes to our kitties.
They are. I agree. A dog, they're pretty happy to lay around all day, but they do want some interaction, and they're kind of obnoxious if they don't get it. Cats will lay around all day and be miserable.
Yeah.
And they just don't tell us. And sometimes they tell us in bad ways. But it's really interesting because I never had a cat until after I graduated from vet school.
Wow.
My dad didn't like cats. My grandfather didn't like cats. So I never had a cat, and I always wanted a cat. So little kitten came in the office that had been attacked by a dog, had broken legs. I put little casts on his little 6-week-old legs and took him home and said, now I have a cat. What do I do with a cat? And they've taught me a lot over the years. And, I have to say, I am one of those lucky people who I have a incredible environment for my outdoor kitties that run and jump and hunt and play. And I think that anybody who's a cat owner should spend time watching a cat live that kind of cat life and see what they do.
Yeah,
it's nothing like what they do laying on your sofa.
Right. See what they're capable of. Yeah. I mean, I think, one of the great feline behaviors that we worked with one of our boys who has now passed, our Pooh Bear, Dr. Marcy Koski. She was helping us with some behavioral problems, and he was a bigger boy. And she was like, play really mitigates any number of behavioral issues. And we were like, oh, girl, we have tried for years to get this baby to play. We have tried forever. And she explained to us what a confidence building session, which is basically that one-on-one time. And it was fascinating. It takes like cats who get used to a certain routine, a certain way of life. Sometimes it takes them a minute to feel comfortable when they are offered something that really embraces their instincts. Watching Pooh Bear over time, taking the time to bring him through the confidence building sessions, which is basically like 20 minutes alone, no other cats. So no one else is interacting.
Yep.
No TVs, no phones,
computers,
and really bringing him through the sequence with a wand toy and letting him stalk it, like watch it, stalk it, chase it, all of that. It was fascinating to see how he really just
came out of his shell.
He came out with his chest just puffed out. It was amazing. And he was far more playful. So giving cats that opportunity, it's not just that we offer our cats a new food once, or we offer our cats some fun cat tree or a scratcher or a new toy or something like that. Sometimes if it's new for them, it takes that consistency to let them know, hey, it's okay to be you. Let's see what you got in there. Really bring them out of their shell. So I do think that what you said, giving all cat parents a chance to watch what a cat is capable of in a more natural environment makes you realize just how much how much enrichment you can add on the inside too.
Maybe that they're more suppressed than they are aloof.
Yeah.
That could very well be it. We're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll talk about more of that when we come back. You know those moments when your cat brushes against your leg or curls up in your lap with a happy purr? That's love. Plain and simple. And more than that, it's trust. As their guardians, our cats depend on us to keep them healthy. Sometimes that may mean a checkup at the vet, but thankfully, there's something you can do every single day to help them stay well. And no carrier required. Ion Gut Support for Pets is a natural liquid wellness solution that's easy to incorporate into your cat's daily routine, and it can make a world of difference in their health. Backed by science, Ion Gut Support for Pets works by fortifying gut health at the cellular level, which in turn supports everything from digestion to immune strength to kidney function. And right now, you can try the Ion Family Plus Pet Wellness Bundle, which includes Ion Gut Support for you and your pets. Click the link in this episode's show notes or visit intelligenceofnature.com and use code Dr. Judy for 15% off your first order. because they want you to be well too. Please note that naturally healthy pets may receive a commission on any orders placed with our code. Thanks to Solutions Pet Products for sponsoring this podcast episode. Solutions is a raw fermented pet food producer that specializes in high organ percentage, complete diets, raw cultured goat milk, gelatin-based supplements, and herbal remedies. Using traditional farming and modern science, they work to provide simple solutions to complex problems. Modern agricultural practices have failed us. Pesticides, GMOs, over-vaccination, monocultural industrial farming, a flagrant abuse of soil and ecosystems. Solutions Pet Products works with small family farms to regenerate the land, and in so doing, revitalizes pets everywhere with clean, healing, ideally formulated, raw fermented pet food. Ask your local pet food retailer about purchasing options, or reach out to Solutions directly at nurture@solutionspetproducts.com. Welcome back. You're listening to the Naturally Healthy Pets podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Judy Morgan, and my guests today are Jae Kennedy and Adrienne Lefebvre from the Two Crazy Cat Ladies. And so we are talking about cats being second-class citizens in the pet world. And I really do think they are, because it's really interesting. Anytime I go looking for studies on cat stuff, there's so few. Like I look for a lot of times we're looking for studies on things, and we'll look at human studies. Like if I'm looking for a medicine study, or you will look at human studies, and then we'll find a bunch of dog studies, and then we'll find a bunch of rat studies, but we don't find cat studies.
Yeah.
Because they're hard.
They're harder to study is what, is basically what we've been told, at least, is that they're much harder to study. I don't know necessarily why in every sense. I mean, I really don't know why in every sense that they would be more difficult to study than dogs. Obviously you see why they'd be more difficult to study than rats in a caged environment, but they, it's you don't.
I don't see as many like specialists that are cat specialists. Like I've met a couple of veterinarians that had cat clinics, cat specific clinics, and they're like all in on cats, but there aren't that many of them. Like I don't know what the numbers are for the AAFP, the American Association of Feline Practitioners. I don't know what the numbers are, but I can't imagine that it's huge. And I just wonder how many of them only do cats, or they're in that as well as canine stuff.
Yeah. Well, we've since we've been in Las Vegas, we've had two feline specific veterinarians.
One is since retired.
One is retired, and now we have a new one.
Awesome.
And they are all in for
only cats. And everything about that environment is different, right? It's a
clinic. Yeah.
But I do think that cats, they kind of have that reputation. We have been to so many vets where you can actually tell they are scared of cats.
Yeah.
Especially when the cat is scared. And that is a really interesting dynamic to see. So I think, these cats, these beautiful little fluff balls, they can be so beautiful, but and amazing. And dogs can be dangerous too, right? But I think cats, when they're scared, it is a little more difficult for a person to read them, especially if they're feeling fear.
And why is that? Why do you think that is, Dr. Judy? Why do you think that so many people are actually scared of cats? Like we have had people that are like, I'm going to come in your house because I don't like cats. But
we hired a technician who was afraid of cats. She had been attacked by one when she was a child. And I can tell you that two of my worst incidents in practice were with cats. One, we had this cat was a long-haired cat, came in all matted because, he wouldn't let everybody brush him like he should, and eating the wrong diet, everything wrong. But anyway, cat needed to be shaved, and we had shaved this cat many times before, and he was really chill. And so I had the cat and I started to shave him, and he lost his marbles. And I probably had 20 bite wounds. He literally latched in with nails and teeth. And then I would literally pry his nails out, and then he would grab with another one, and we'd get those out, and he'd grab with the teeth. I mean, I looked like Swiss cheese.
Oh my God.
And he had never acted like that in the past. I don't know why he flipped his gourd at that point, but you know, when a cat decides they are suddenly going rogue,
Yeah.
I had another one climb up me like I was a tree trunk. He was a feral cat, so that didn't shock me because it was a feral cat and it climbed me like a tree trunk, and piercings everywhere.
Yeah, that's actually a normal thing in our house.
Yeah.
Well, yes, we get the climbing and the piercings, but there's a difference between an aggressive piercing and I just want to climb up you.
that cliche of they're acting like a cornered cat. That fight or flight for cats is our Annie Bell, who's here, and our Blueberry had a little bit of it too. It's like, man, they've got some wild cat in them. It's just, wow, this is not a domestic animal at all. Yeah. So I do think that there is something to be said about the that saying,
and I think in veterinary clinics, we're a little off topic, but in veterinary clinics, if you don't have a cat specific person, like I had a technician who, you guys would love her, she would love you. She was a crazy cat person. She designed diets for cats. She was just so she had a bunch of cats, and she was the cat whisperer. So if we had a crazy cat come in, it's like, Carly, I need you to, the crazy cat's in that room. I need you to go, do your cat whispering thing. Yeah. And she could handle any cat. And not with Bruticane. It was just, it all ended up being very calm. And a lot of times they were in a burrito, which, it made the cat feel fine because it was like, okay, I'm just going to hide in here. But she was just so good with them. And I think that is one of the problems in veterinary medicine. Like if you have a clinic that are mostly dog people and you're bringing in your cat into that clinic.
Yeah.
It could be very difficult for the cat.
It can. Yeah. That is one of the main reasons why we, if at all possible, pick a feline specific, even if they are not holistic, which none of them in Vegas have been, is that, we've got our holistic veterinarian and then we've got our feline specific veterinarian so that we have, a safe place where we know we can consult with either one of them.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not even just the veterinarians and staff, but if you're in the waiting room and your cat's in the carrier and there's a big barking dog sitting across from them, or, the dog on the 8-foot leash that runs across the waiting room to stick his face in your dog's carrier or your cat's carrier is so much fun.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a thing.
I was just thinking, though, to circle back on the science, though, like you said, it's kind of like Christmas when you actually find a real study about cats. And I think it's so important for cat parents. Like there was a study that we read, I think it's peer-reviewed science. They were testing vegan diets with cats. And it was fascinating.
That was recent.
Yes. So it's put out there in these journals. It's called a peer-reviewed study. There was all this stuff. A lot of it it's self-reporting. Right. So it's not that these cats they know that in a controlled environment, this is what's going on, whatever. But it was, so a lot of self-reporting. And then the conclusions were all these amazing benefits for a vegan diet. And I think it's one of these things where it's so important.
But it wasn't really, if you read the study all the way through, the headlines that covered it, all the headlines that covered it were, this could be great. But when you actually read the study, it basically said there's no proof that this would be beneficial to cats. If you read through the
fine print.
But
skimming the article without the article, it's like, what?
Yeah. I mean, and that happens so often. And things get quoted as the gospel when it's like, that's not really what it said.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But
well, I'm just going to go on the record and say no vegan diets for cats.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. Again, obligate carnivores. But, also brings us back to our pet stores, which is funny because it was a pet store owner was the first person back in 2015, 2016, I think, that said the words to us, cats are second-class citizens and people don't. So, and they were like, that's why I don't have a big section of
pet stores do not.
Exactly.
Like, I used to go in the pet stores to get things for my dogs, and I'm like, well, let me go see what's in the cat section. And the cat section would be like 2 little tiny half shelves, like of nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, like toys or something.
So is it supply and demand, and is that not just products but information?
I think
it's supply
demand.
or demand.
No, it's
right?
demand and then supply. I think that it's really us.
Yeah, because I can tell you that we expanded our cat department at Naturally Healthy Pets and stuff languishes.
Yeah.
Languishes.
Right.
And so we were like, okay, we're like, we need to be more there, more present for cat people.
Yeah.
But you're right. People don't use as many supplements for cats because it's harder to get them in them. It's hard to get cats to adapt to any change. I will say that catnip toys do well. Cats do like catnip.
Yes, so true. But I think what you do is so invaluable because I think, that information, I know from personal experience as far as second class citizens go, it's because we didn't really know better, right? We've really been investing our life into learning as much as we can. So I think part of it is just that we don't know that we can be proactive about these things. We always hear those sad stories of, I had no idea. I just had to put my cat down. I didn't even know they were sick. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's with kidney disease or diabetes or something like that.
Well, and that is another cat issue. Cats hide symptoms.
Yep.
Yeah.
And cats, don't like to get in the box and go to the veterinarian. So they don't get their annual lab work and their annual exams. And then they hide their symptoms. And people are like, well, I don't need to take him to the vet. He seems perfectly healthy to me. Yeah. And by the time he does start showing symptoms, it's like, oh, you could have used that information about a year ago.
Yep. Yeah. That's, I get that you can't just be like, okay, all cat parents, you need to get all of your cats into the vet at least once a year and, get a blood panel. We say it all the time and we do it ourselves, but it is hard even for us with 5 cats, making the different appointments, not, dragging them all in at one time. We've tried that. It's not the best idea. So, and then the stress that it puts them through when they're not normally, going to the vet on a regular basis, it's a difficult thing.
It is. So I think they get ignored because they allow themselves to be ignored as part of it. They're like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I'm good. Except they're really not. And they really like the enrichment, like you were talking about with Pooh Bear. I think that is so cool. We'll have to do another session on that. It is very cool when you see what a natural cat in a natural habitat does. And then you look at your indoor cat and go, oh yeah, that's not what you do.
Yeah.
And so we really thwart their efforts to be natural cats. And I think, I appreciate what you guys do because you are trying to get people to see through that and see that they're not just this solitary lump on the pillow.
Yeah.
Like they're so much better as a pet when you interact with them and do things with them. My granddaughter, my 3-year-old granddaughter, tortures their cat, Edward, carries him around and dresses him up. And, and Edward is just like, oh, good, a friend. Yeah. He's just amazing.
Yeah. I mean, they really are pets. They're not accessories. They are pets. Yeah. And that's what, that's really what our whole vision is to try to let people know there's more cats that are owned in the US than there are dogs. So let's let all the cat people know it's okay to see them as your pet. Let's start taking care of them as your pet.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So diet, entertainment, emotional support, all that stuff for your kitty cats. Really, really, really critical. I love everything that you do. I love that we have a voice for the cats because they have not had one for a very long time. So thank you both. I can't believe we're out of time. Time always goes so fast when we talk, but thank you and keep doing what you're doing. And for those who are listening, we do have an offer. Feline Essential by the Two Crazy Cat Ladies, 10% off using the code Dr. Morgan. We will put the link in the show notes and you can find them. All their different social media tags are pretty much the Two Crazy Cat Ladies. So look them up. You won't be disappointed.
Thank you, Dr. Judy. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to another great Naturally Healthy Pets episode. Be sure to check out the show notes for some helpful links. And if you enjoy the show, please be sure to follow and listen for free on your favorite podcast app.
We value your feedback and would love to hear from you on how we're doing. Visit drjudymorgan.com for healthy product recommendations, comprehensive courses, upcoming events, and other fantastic resources. Until next time, keep giving your pet the vibrant life they deserve.
The purpose of this podcast is to educate and to inform. It is no substitute for professional care by a veterinarian, licensed nutritionist, or other qualified professional. You're encouraged to do your own research and should not rely on this information as professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Dr. Judy and her guests express their own views, experience, and conclusions. Dr. Judy Morgan's Naturally Healthy Pets neither endorses or opposes any particular view discussed here.